the Carlsen Mamedyarov position. Pawn to c4 has been played. Mamedyarov goes e6, which I guess is the most common choice amongst top players these days. Mamedyarov has been a big Grunfeld player for many years as well, of course. Here he goes for e6, and Carlsen sticks to the Catalan, his new weapon of choice, it looks like.
Yeah, appears to just be solidly his number one choice. He's been playing a lot of that recently, and I've always liked it as an opening much more than some of the other things you can do again in the, let's say, d4, knight f6 / d4, d5 complex of openings. Yeah,
they look interesting. So castles, and Magnus plays e3. Quite a move, trying to avoid maybe some of these sharp lines you mentioned earlier with queen c1 or queen c2. Could still be unpleasant.
This is actually similar to what they got, right? In this particular case, it doesn't necessarily win the pawn
we
back.
can just take it, and if cb, we take the bishop, and if bishop takes, we have knight fd2, and you can't recapture.
Yeah.
So maybe that explains why the rook.
Yeah, exactly. It will be very difficult to justify developing your pieces in such a manner if after that white just wins the pawn back very comfortably.
Queen c2 played, pawn to b5, pawn to a4.
The Magnus Carlsen is going to be very, very interesting.
Mamedyarov chose door 3. You mentioned bishop c3. I mentioned bishop b7. He went rook b6, saying, I want to keep the pawn and the bishop.
Yeah, he found a move he liked, which protected the pawn on b5. I really hated bishop d7. Didn't even want to think about queen d7, queen e8, or queen b6. And that's why I took on c3. But yeah, rook b6 looks like a sensible other choice. Not committing to bishop c3 yet and defending the pawn. First and foremost, I think as most people who have ever had to address this question, I'm in this debate. And the move Shah made here, I'm very invested in trying to investigate, because I have a feeling I know why he did this. And it's very, very daring and interesting to me. Because it looks like it loses by force because of e5. And if the knight has to go back, I think you're just completely lost on it. It feels to me like it's unplayable if it goes back. Yeah, he clearly didn't like that position we were discussing. Yeah, I think it's very obvious that he was not a fan.
We could still get something.
Yeah, there's also knight b4, right? Knight b4 might be a relevant inclusion. What could it be?
I'm reading that Mamedyarov blundered, which always to be taken with.
Yeah,
but apparently the computer doesn't like what he did. He did insist on this exchange sacrifice. Now knight c6. This is position we looked at. Doesn't look like a blunder.
No, definitely not a blunder. But yeah, maybe this particular version of the positional exchange sacrifice is.
Sort of saying Mamedyarov played well, I guess. No blunder. Yeah, it certainly didn't look like, but probably the computer feels this good for white.
Yeah, this was not an oversight. Little Machine on site was very, very much in favor of the exchange sacrifice which Jan proposed before we went off air for a bit. Specifically rook c8, queen f5, with the idea of, very importantly, the knight on c6 does not really have any good squares to... I mean, you can play knight a7 here, which does protect the rook on c8 and stops c5, e6. But knight a7 in itself is such an ugly move to make that I don't think it's a very attractive option. So what ends up happening is black probably plays something like rook f8 and white goes e6. And this looks very, very dangerous for black. But apparently even the position they have on the board right now is also pretty good, even though those tactics are no longer in play. Pretty good, at least, on a previous move. And apparently now Magnus, we're being told by computer experts, is maybe just winning, even though it still doesn't really look that way. It looks like he might be better, but it doesn't look like he's winning.
So was rook fa1, bishop e6 played, yeah? This is the position?
Yeah. Apparently bishop e6 is not the way to go, and b5, b4 was stronger, and now white is very much ahead. But yeah, not sure I can explain why. Apart from the very simple, rook better than bishop, we have more rooks. Therefore, we must win.
That makes sense. This position?
This position, in practical play, I take black.
Yeah. But the one we have now, even in practical play, I'm not sure how winning it is, but it feels believable you would take white, no? Like the rooks.
Absolutely, yeah. You would. And he does play queen d1, and Chad is very much wondering why this is the only move that gives a very, very large advantage, and everything else was immediately bringing it back into probably
better than queen d2. your point is here you want to go some b3, c3, and some move, yeah?
I have no idea. I can I can believe not having to trade. Like, I think the idea that we preserve the option of maybe keeping both rooks on the a file in some positions and just generally annoying black for a while yet by keeping the rooks on and having them calculate.
Carlsen has played queen d1, which was praised by Chet and Sese. Mamedyarov plays pawn to b4. And now the question is what white should do next. I was assuming, but I haven't looked at the computer here yet, that one reason for queen to d1 could be to go b3 here and not being hit by c3 with tempo. But I'm not sure if there are any direct inroads. Some rook to a6, some bishop f1 coming. Potentially, knight could come here. But he was praised, I believe, yeah, also for this b3, c3.
And now he's done something very clever, yeah. I think very clever at least. He went rook a6, got the queen away from the b6 square, and is now planning to just put the knight on c2, and that completely frees up the bishop for useful things.
Once the bishop joins, black's defensive lines actually collapse, no? Like that.
Yeah, I think once white actually, the first threat probably will be the last threat here. And yeah, keeping both rooks on the a file alive is just so annoying for black because you just can't really create any proper pressure. I think some sort of bishop f5 needs to be organized very quickly. Like, I think you need to play rook d8 here to at least be able to play knight c2, bishop f5. But maybe he just loses to knight e3.
Serving him well.
And yeah, Shah went f7, f6. I was wondering about that, not because I like the move, but because it feels like staying passive will not work. And this is the one way black has of not staying passive. But it probably just ends up losing you the game faster because your position just starts collapsing faster after knight c2. We don't even need to play f4, I think. We just go knight c2. Yeah.
Magnus, in the meantime, found knight to d3, f takes e5, knight takes e5. And it's just over, no?
Yeah, it looks over. Knight e5, rook e6 is completely over. I was wondering if maybe you can go knight d4 here, but it just doesn't do anything, right? Queen d4, bishop c5. But the issue is, like, everything wins now. I guess queen d3 is maybe the cleanest. Just queen d3, queen e5, rook e6, just the calmest and the cleanest reaction. And yeah, that's just one check. Yeah, it's just a technical win. c2, he's gone queen e1. I have a feeling almost any square is winning here, but yeah, knight d3, rook e7, c1, we take on c1, I guess, yeah. And then on d5 in the end there, and yeah, there's really no particular reason to continue with black here. 2 down, and the knight is also not really participating all that much in the proceedings here. D-pawn queens, pretty much. Yeah, very clean game by Magnus. Sam did resign after rook c6, not unexpectedly. And Shah did resign after Magnus, so we suddenly have an influx of finished games and decisive finished games as well.